PlayStation very kindly invited me to play 2 hours of Spider-Man 2 at a private event here in London, where I was able to get some first-hand on story spoiler-free impressions on what this game is all about, which I'm very much looking forward to breaking it all down with you in this video. And let's first start with a general overview of what was involved in this playtest, so you know firsthand what to expect in everything I'm about to discuss with you. Firstly, this 2-hour demo was fairly restricted, meaning I was only allowed to play successive storyline missions, which happened to be the same quest which we've already seen back in the PlayStation gameplay showcase involving Lizard. So there wasn't a lot of time during my playthrough to free roam or explore outside of my direct quest. Secondly, I wasn't allowed to capture my own footage, so all the visuals you're looking at right now and are going to see throughout this video is B-roll that PlayStation have sent me directly. Now, this footage has been recorded in the game's fidelity mode setting, which runs at 4K at 30 frames per second, as confirmed to me by the creative director Brian Intihar, who is a great guy, by the way, very nice in person. Incidentally, good to know that there is also a performance mode at launch targeting 60 FPS, but they didn't openly confirm that to me on the day what that was specifically, but I do believe it'll be a 4K resolution that has been upscaled by using either FSR or DLSS, but we'll just have to wait for further confirmation officially on that. Additionally, Brian also confirmed to me that the demo was a 6 weeks old game build that is still a work in progress, and even though my demo was fairly rigid in terms of point A to B as far as a preview goes, I only ran into 2 bugs where I had to reload a previous save, which to be honest was really good, as there's so much impressive stuff going on in this game, which we're going to talk about next. Because as for difficulty, I just want to let you know I played on the amazing level, which is normal, by the way, where I didn't have the option to change it throughout my playthrough, but I did find that a solid challenge, to be fair, which surprised me in a good way, and that is a smooth transition onto combat now, because whoa, let me tell you, I was engaged from start to finish, and I'm trying to be as objective as possible here, but due to Peter's increased aggression and recklessness when it comes to fighting in tandem with the symbiote, the animators have clearly invested an immense amount of work into the game to make it feel a lot more impulsive and emphasize a pretty destructive bonding with the both of them, that being Peter and the symbiote. In fact, I think it was before the PlayStation gameplay showcase earlier on this year, Aaron Jason Espinoza, the senior community manager at Insomniac, told us to get very cozy with the L1 and R1 buttons, and he is absolutely right, because these L1 abilities are different for Miles and Peter, which I'll just pause here and zoom in and transition for you so you can see, which can also be switched out in the skills menu that I am unfortunately unable to show you at the moment, but I can confirm that there are 3 skill trees, one for Peter, one for Miles, and another shared between them. So if there's a particular move that you enjoy using in this game, you can ensure it's in your L1 loadout for Venom based abilities and R1 for your Spidey gadgets. Now, these new Venom abilities specifically for Peter are pretty outrageous, to be honest, from a visual standpoint. They flowed really well together when using multiple moves back to back, so it didn't feel disjointed or separated, and that made it really difficult to tell where one of those moves began and where another one ended, which was really positive in my opinion. In fact, when I was defending Harry from waves and waves of Kraven's hunters in one of the first missions I played, my eyes were pretty much glued to the screen, and that was predominantly because I wanted to build up my combo meter, which is here at the top of your screen, by the way, if you didn't know, to then be able to use my new Venom abilities such as the Symbiote Strike and Punch to smash NPCs into the ground that felt visceral, violent, and very satisfying to use. I also enjoyed pulling all of my enemies together using the web grabber gadget to then blow them all apart to pieces with my Venom Symbiote Blast, which never ever got old to use in my short time with the game. Incidentally, if you combine these new abilities, including Miles's new Thunderburst and Chain Lightning moves with this Symbiote or Electrical Surge, which accumulates at the top right hand corner of your screen, by the way, it's this thing here, and this fills up after you continually perform well in combat, you'll then be able to use it, which pretty much becomes a one-shotting machine. Well, you become a one-shotting machine because it buffs both characters onto an even bigger superhuman level. That said, an interesting point to know about this Surge ultimate move is that it doesn't persist through death, because when I was going toe-to-toe with Lizard, which was a fantastic boss fight, by the way, that the team unfortunately didn't allow me to finish on the playtest, keeping us all on a bit of a cliffhanger here, but I was able to blast through his first boss phase, and then I got nuked by him in his second boss phase, but after respawning to go again, the Surge meter wasn't available. I'd already used it in my previous attempt. So bear that in mind, and I think that's a good implementation by the devs from a gameplay standpoint, because it's so overpowered, and it would definitely have been a less challenging experience and arguably less enjoyable gameplay through if we were able to just use it in every single combat scenario. Now, all of these new moves contribute to your screen becoming pretty full pretty quickly, especially when utilizing 3 Venom abilities in a row once your combo meter is full. And if you combine that with the multiple move prompts flashing on your screen every other second, I can definitely see this being a little bit overwhelming as an experience for you gamers who prefer something a little bit more manageable. In fact, you can manage this by slowing down the game to a speed of 70, 50, or 30% to kind of ease yourself in if you are having troubles, which is a good entry option for those of you who are unsure about the pace of the game. But on the whole, I think the UI is pretty clean, it's easy to understand and navigate once you get your bearings, especially with the environmental finishes such as the wall kicks and Venom moves, giving you that extra couple seconds to then recalibrate your position and let your brain catch up when the screen is locked in with a cool animated finisher. Additionally, I think it's important to note here as well in terms of combat that these red incoming attacks from close quarters enemies have to be blocked by the parry button, which took my brain a little bit of time to adjust to, as I've just come off a early playtest with Assassin's Creed Mirage, and incoming red attacks in that game are dodge indicators every day of the week, as well as actually most other single player RPG games. So a bit of a switch up here in Spider-Man 2, because you will need to parry this red incoming attack with the symbiote, because if you dodge or move away, you'll take instant damage, which is a very significant amount of damage, especially in boss fights. However, this doesn't seem to apply with Kraven's Hunter enemies and their rifles at range when I tested it, by the way, so a simple dodge will suffice at distance when dealing with range enemies. That said, incoming yellow attacks are dodgeable and parryable, so full reign there in terms of button bashing yourself out of the way. Now, on the whole, there are a lot more moves that have been reprised from the previous 2 games, as you'd kind of expect, but I didn't feel like it was just a copy and paste to this new game per se, and I think that's predominantly due to the new abilities that we've just discussed, as they really do take center stage here. But there's enough of these standard Spidey moves in the game for it to be familiar, but also add a new twist on them. And I'll give you an example here, because when using the triangle button in the first game, you could pull enemies closer to you, which you can also do here, but you can also use the black suit to now slam them left or right into the walls if you want to. So Insomniac are continuing to add additional layers to already existing and familiar movesets, which I really appreciated, and I think you will too. But the good thing about this game is that you don't just have to play as a spider-centric Venom freight train if you don't want to, as stealth is very viable and a satisfying option in this game as well. I used the web line to sneak around the environment as Miles, with a lot of versatility on where you can cast your walking lines, so you do have a lot of variety in terms of where you want to go and where you want to place your web line to then walk across, which will then allow you to drop down from above and perform a dual takedown, which, if I'm being honest, felt more like an Assassin's Creed game than Assassin's Creed does right now, which I absolutely loved, and I think you stealth-centric players will really like this as well. I also played a mission as Miles where he was using the Spiderbot to infiltrate his local community music hall that had been taken over by some thugs, and I'm not usually a fan of these type of mechanics where you take control of a mini controllable character, companion, or tech-based hardware minion like this Spidey-bot, especially as these missions are predominantly puzzle-based. But then again, it did feel fun to me, as the jet boosts on the bot added in a bit of mission verticality, and the routes to complete this quest were not linear, so there were several different paths to take. But a quick speed through for those of you who aren't too fussed about skulking around in air vents and waiting for patrols to move on so you can sneak on past. Now, if you are enjoying this breakdown so far, please do leave a very swift like down below, so thanks very much for your support. And if you're interested, I'm actually running a Spider-Man 2 game giveaway. You just need to be a subscriber of the channel to enter, and I'll pop the link down below in the pinned comment. So very best of luck to you. Now, one of my favorite things about Insomniac Spider-Man games is the incredible world building they do and how they make the cities they create feel completely alive. And with their 3rd game here, they continue to make incremental improvements that compound into a really immersive experience without feeling like just reusing old assets. And I think the biggest and most enjoyable addition here is the wingsuit, because even though web slinging is still an incredibly enjoyable thing to do in Spider-Man 2, I feel like the team have done a really great job at merging the swing and glide suit together as a combination of two separate ways to travel or explore the world. But they're also very easy to transition back and forth between them individually depending upon the location or situation you're in. So they didn't feel like separate mechanics like calling your in-game car or mount in other games, opening that door or mounting up and then driving or riding off into the distance, for example, but rather I felt like I could glide through these wind tunnels to then instantly pull myself out with a web sling pull, gain some height and elevation with a swing rotation, and then dive down on NPCs who are committing a local crime, which these world events do return here from previous games. That said, I did find the web glider, the web wings, I should say, challenging to get a hang of initially, especially when you're between high-rise buildings or skyscrapers, as I feel that you do need to be very precise with your joystick movements when you're in between these close-quarter buildings. Otherwise, Peter or Miles will just hit the wall and then begin climbing up that building, which subsequently puts a halt or a stop to your traversal route or swinging or gliding flow in certain areas, which took some time to get used to. This is made more challenging when completing one of the world quests where you need to follow one of Kraven's Talon drones and avoid the bombs it drops in the air behind itself whilst being close enough to actually download the data to prevent it from locating and hunting others in the city. Now, this was great fun, but again, it will take you a little bit of time to become solid with it, especially with the cluster explosions between buildings and the sensitivity of the web wings. But there's also a great couple animations when using them, as when you glide into these air currents, Miles and Peter react as you'd expect from a gust of wind hitting their body, as well as performing this really cool aerial landing on the ground, which unfortunately Sony didn't provide me with this footage specifically to show you, but Miles and Peter both stretch out their arms to cause drag and then drop softly onto the ground. It's very cool to see and experience, and I love the small details in this game just like that. That said, I unfortunately wasn't able to explore the map in full and could only run around in a limited area for a limited time, but as the map is twice the size of the previous two games, the slingshots were another mode of transport that were really great fun to use, and they do appear as locations on your minimap. So if you do see one, beeline for it, because they almost act as a fast travel reset, as you can get significant distance after using them in conjunction with your web wings. There's also no dynamic day or night cycle in the game, so you can't choose what time of day you want it to be, and the devs confirmed to me whilst playing that there is content or quests in this game that is specific to Peter, Miles, and narrative storylines that you can choose to play as either of them. Additionally, whilst out free roaming, and only when one of the Spider-Man isn't involved or locked behind a main narrative questline, you can instantly switch to them by taking advantage of the super fast PS5 SSDs, which was really impressive when experiencing it myself in game. I think it was like half a second or something like that. And I will tell you what else was impressive, and that was the upgraded 3D spatial audio sound, especially when you web sling close to the traffic or the ground. In fact, I'm actually going to play a couple seconds of sound for you here so you can kind of get a good idea of what I'm talking about. So yeah, really immersive, and I liked that a lot. It felt like I was really slinging my way through New York City when I had my headphones on. And when I'm just looking at this footage now while I'm recording, I nearly forgot to mention photo mode opportunities are back in this game, which are great because they reward you with XP and suits as actual rewards as well. And that's a great segue onto that topic now, because Brian, the creative director, confirmed to me that there are 65 suits in the game, with familiar suits, well, suits that you should be familiar with from the comics, movies, and other mainstream Spider-Man media, with an additional 200 different ways that you can actually customize your own suit in game. Now, I wasn't able to experience much of these options or customization options in game whilst playing my demo, because the story had me locked in at certain points where I could only view or change between 3 different suits. But what I did find awesome about them in the menu system, which I can now show you, is that they do have color variations which you can choose from, and the suits also have capes which will have specific cape physics that do look terrific when I played and react as you'd expect in combat or out when you're exploring. I also had written down in my notes here that suit modifications have been removed from previous games, as well as skills on the suits now being more closely aligned with one another. And I'm very much looking forward to breaking this down in further detail for you in another video as soon as I get hold of more B-roll from PlayStation, because these two mechanics are a big highlight for me so far. Additionally, before the devs kicked me off their demo, I tried to rummage through some of the settings and accessibility menu options for you, which I was also able to confirm with the team that there will be 26 language options available for on-screen text and 12 with actual voice acting. There's also on-screen captions and audio descriptions available for those of you who want it included in the cinematics. And while I'm recording this, actually, as we're on the topic of cinematics, that reminded me of the fight with Lizard, and I wanted to mention this in this video because the two dots next to his health bar, if I just pause and zoom in here for you, they actually indicate how many fight phases you go through. So in this case it's 2, which is a nice detail to remember as it applies to other mainstream fights in game and gives you an idea of how well you're progressing at that moment in time. But all in all, for me, this game is a big positive in the limited amount of time I had to put it through its paces, and I'm very confident that we're in safe hands with Insomniac, as they've got a lot of surprises for us in store with this one. I can't wait to learn more, and I'm super excited to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. What do you think of all this? Additionally, if you haven't already done so, do consider subscribing, as I've got a lot more Spider-Man 2 exclusive content coming your way. In fact, there may even be a new video on my face right now, so hopefully see you there in just a second. Big thanks to Mill, Jess, Sarah, and the PlayStation team, who were amazing, and my additional thanks to Nika for helping me with the Spider-Man coverage. Coffee is on all of them, and I'll see you in that next video.